All right, so um, I was talking about the skin. The skin, we are talking about the integuments, and then the integuments covers the whole body. And this integument is what most of us, especially our lady counterparts, are so cautious of. They don't want anything to touch their skin. It is what is going to attract the boys to them, or whatever. I don't know. Uh-huh. So we will look at what actually is in this skin that eventually makes you to be how you are. As I was saying the last time, when I take off the skin, when I take off the skin, any beautiful girl will look like me, this ugly man. Are you getting me? Any beautiful girl will look like me. Because when I take off my skin, take off your skin, as except the facial morphology, anything we are seeing is muscles and everything. So the skin adds to the surface anatomy, which beautifies you, and then that makes you to what? Get whatever you want to do. Okay. So the skin, you need to take good care of your skin. I'm not saying you shouldn't take good care of your skin. It is the body part that is exposed to the environment, and then it will be the body part that you take good care of. So the skin, the integument, we are going to what makes up the skin. The skin we are seeing, I hope when someone touches you, you can feel it because the skin has something. When you walk under the sun for a long time, water will start coming or sweat will start coming out of your skin because there is something in there. At times, some of the skins are oily, some oil substance, so then there is something in there. So these are the histological breakdowns we are going to talk about for the skin. So starting with the skin, our function is to look at the major components, look at the components of the epidermis, look at the microstructure of the dermis, and also look at some epidermal derivatives. So the main function for protection against abrasion, that is friction, frictional protection. So it tells you that no matter what, even if you don't remember anything, so far as it is protection, you should remember what? Stratified squamous epithelium, whether it is keratinized or non-keratinized. That one is another ball, another game for another day. So stratified squamous there, you should what? Remember. Someone touches you, someone slaps you, someone punches you, you feel it because the skin has receptors, sensory receptors, nociceptors, thermoceptors are all there. Then the skin, you realize that when you are feeling cold, you begin to shiver. When you're shivering, you realize that the hairs on the skin will rise up to trap moisture, and then heat around you to regulate your temperature. Excretion, the skin will also excrete something, the sweat. And then you remember that they say walk under morning light to get some form of vitamin D. To get some form of vitamin D. So metabolic activities of the skin will produce vitamin D, which is very essential for the beautification of yourself and some form of immune activities. Basic structures. We are looking at the epidermis and then the dermis, and then at times the subcutis, that is the hypodermis. So when we take the skin, we are looking at the top one, just this top one, that top one over there is known as the epidermis, and then the down one here is the dermis. Now the epidermis is like, I don't know how, it's just like the finger. You can all try it as whilst I'm talking. Open up your two fingers and try to put one into the other. Okay, so that interlocking activity, that is how the skin is made. You have the epidermal um, uh, uh, projections into the dermal projections. So these dermal projections are known as the dermal papillae, These are all dermal papillae, and then these are the rate ridges of the epidermis. So the rate ridges will enter into the dermal papillae and lock up. So this whole side that you are seeing is the dermis. This whole side that you are seeing is the dermis, and then this is the subcutis, the hypodermis. Okay, these things that are coming out from the skin, like this one, is an epidermal derivative. Epidermal derivative. So let us take the epidermis. The epidermis is mainly made up of stratified squamous keratinizing epithelium. You know why? Because we have spoken about that. The stratified squamous keratinizing epithelium are just to ensure that you are being protected, okay? And then it also have junction. We saw the junction, that is the epidermal or the rate ridges, and then the dermal papillae. They are going to connect each other. Then in the palms and the toes, you'll realize that you can see some grooves in your palms and toes, which you don't, which actually eventually gives up your fingerprint and all those things. Okay. These ridges and grooves, they are so high in the palms and toes. That is how come you get to have fingerprints, or we call them the dermatoglyphs, okay, or dermatoglyphics, which are unique for each individual, used for identification purpose. This epithelia that we've seen earlier here is also placed into 5 layers. So you are going to see the 5 layers of the skin, and then we go to the dermis. So when you look at this, we have two main types of skin: thick skin and thin skin. You can see the epidermis of the this is the epidermis from here to here. That is the thin skin, and then this is the thick skin. Sorry, this is the thick skin, and this is for the thick skin. The stratum corneum is highly keratinized. You can see that there are not even no space within it. Okay, you don't even see any cell thing here, but here you can only see some small cells. So this is a thin skin. Nonetheless, they all have the layers. The difference another difference between the thick skin and then the thin skin is that the thick skin has the 5 layer. The second layer is not seen in the thin skin. The second layer, which is called the stratum lucidum. The stratum lucidum. You don't see that in the thin skin. So the thin skin epidermis has 4 layers, whilst the thick skin has 5 layers. So we have the stratum corneum, which is the most superficial. After that, in the thick skin, we should be seeking the second layer, which is the stratum lucidum. Then after the stratum lucidum, we have a dark pigmentous layer, which is known as the stratum granulosum. And then after that, we have the spinous layer, which is known as the stratum spinosum. And then the basal layer, which is the stratum germinativum or stratum basale. So this is the stratum basale, stratum spinosum, stratum granulosum, and stratum corneum. Below the stratum basale, then you have your dermis, the dermis. So now when we take each layer, we are going to talk about each layer starting from the bottom to the top. We are going to see the type of cells you see in there, fibers you see in there. Okay. So when we take the stratum corneum, sorry, basale, if you did remember, I told you that before squamous cells will be formed, initially they were cuboidal, okay, or they might be columnar. So mostly the stratum basale cells that you see here are cuboidal in nature, okay? As they move on to the surface, then they loosen cytoplasm and become what? A flattened cell to become squamous. So the stratum basale or germinativum, you expect to see simple cuboidal uh, cells. Then the second layer from the bottom, that's the fourth layer from the top, is the stratum spinosum. We call it the spinous layer. And then here it is made up of a polyhedral. If you did remember, when we were talking about the hepatic cells, we say that they are polyhedral, okay, and then the polyhedral cytoplasmic extension bound to those of the adjacent cells, okay, and then the cells here will make cytokeratin, which forms some form of fibrils that will attach to the cells between each cells. The stratum granulosum layer is basophilic in nature. They are also keratohaline, and then they also have oval bodies. The lucidum you only see in thick skin. They are eosinophilic, and then they do not have any cell organelles. That is what I would want you to do. No. And then for the stratum corneum, we call them the honey layer because that is where you see most of the keratin, very full, flattened, dead, and dying cells full of keratin, no nuclei, no organelle. That is how come I told you that keratinization is just dead cells, if you didn't remember earlier. And then these cells are renewed every 15 to 30 days. That is how come when you finish bathing, cry, you use the towel on your skin, then you realize that the part it's so how will I put it? Very, very mysterious. How you finish bathing, you think you've cleaned yourself, only for you to use the towel on your body and you realize that there are a lot of dust or dirt coming out of that. You see? So I've been saying that 90%, okay, 90% of dirt that come in our rooms, assuming you are in an AC room, always closed, not exposed to the environment. You are in there for the next 3 months. Any dirt, and then it was cleaned before you came. Any dirt you see in that room, 90% of that dirt is coming from your skin. Some people will still argue it and say how. Now, the boys, for the ladies, I may not know, but for us, the boys, you wear about 3 boxer pants. Okay, you wear a boxer pant, or at times you even wear panties, which are very hidden. So you don't have any dust that coming from uh, the environment to that particular groin area. But when you still remove your pant or your boxer pant, you realize that there are a lot of dirt in there. This is coming from the skin. They are the dead cells, okay? The dead cells, especially those who don't bath. I know some of the guys don't bath, okay? And if you don't bath more, you see more dead cells over there.
There's no man of God in our class. Oh.
There's no man of God in your class, eh? Anyway, so I've heard. So, renewal, one beautiful thing about this is that the renewal is done every 15 to 30 days. So, every fortnight, your skin should be replaced, which you don't have any idea of. So, what are the cells? What cells will we see in this skin? So, now we've seen the layer. Let's see the cells we can see in the epidermis. So, the very first one we'll talk about are the melanocytes, which we will see in the basal layer, okay, going back. So this is the basal layer, okay. This is the spinal cell, this is the stratum germinativum, and then this is the stratum spinosum. This part we are seeing the stratum granulosum, and then that's the stratum corneum. So we have a special cell type in the aside the germinal cells, we also have the melanocytes, which are responsible for producing melanin. Okay, so you can see melanin secreting cells all over here, which do all sorts of things. So they make melanin number of fairly constant in any given part, regardless of sex and race. Differences is in the rate of dispositions. So dark skinned people have more melanosomes and numerous and very dispersed throughout the cells as compared to the whites. So we are having a lot of what? So if you take a fairer person in your class and then a very dark person in the class, what it means is that there are more melanocytes within that dark person, which are producing melanin, One beautiful thing about this is that the melanin is what is going to produce you, protect you from the UV sun radiations. And then so it's not a bad thing to have dark skin, okay, to have dark skin. Then albinism is actually the process where the melanocytes are unable to make melanin. Take note of this. Albinism is not being white. White people have melanin, but the amount of melanin they have is not fairly distributed, and it is not as many as how we black have it. Albinism, melanocytes are not producing any melanin at all. So these people, they do not have any melanin in their body. This is could be due to the fact that they lack the enzyme tyrosinase. So that means their thyroid gland is also not really producing well. Tyrosinase or inability to take up tyrosine. Are you getting me? So these are the factors that associate with albinism. With albinism. So this is just to show. Yes. The second cell that we are going to see is the Langerhans cells, which are actually found in the stratum spinosum, some portions of the stratum spinosum. Normally, when you look at this, you can tell that this is a melanocyte. You can also tell this is a melanocyte, but this is a normal basal cell. When you come here in the stratum spinosum, you can tell that this is what? It's very different from the others. You can tell that this is what? Langerhans cells. The Langerhans cells are more of macrophagic in nature, and then they are going to pick up any bacteria that will enter the skin and then deal with it before it gets into your underlying skin. Then we also have Merkel cell, also found in the basal layer, and then they are very abundant in fingertip, basis of hair follicle, and then they have specialized touch receptors. The Merkel cells are just touch receptors, okay? They are just touch receptors, which allows for uh, us to feel the sensation of touch, to feel the sensation of touch. Now, that brings us to the end of the epidermis. Now, let us look at the dermis. As the epidermis is more of epithelia, the dermis is a connective tissue. Note this. The dermis is a connective tissue. That is the place where the epidermis gets its nutrition. That's the place that the epidermis will get its nervous stimulations and all other things. So as you can see, the dermis is thrown into two layers. That is, we have the papillary layer. The papillary layer is the part that is nearer to the epidermis, and then the reticular layer is the one that is away from the epidermis. So the papillary layer is made up of loose connective tissues beneath the epidermis. It has dermal papillae that are interdigitating with the root ridges. I've explained this. They contain some small blood vessels, lymphatics, and then nerves. So we're going to look at them. The epidermis very, I'll explain that very soon. The reticular dermis is more thicker. Instead of having loose areola connective tissue, it has dense irregular connective tissue with type 1 collagen, okay? Very plenty of type 1 collagen and some form of thick elastic fibers. The cells we can find inside here are more of fibroblasts. Yes, that is how come the skin. You remember, if you have dense irregular connective tissue, you should be having a lot of fibers. So we expect that you will have a lot of fibroblasts inside there. Macrophages will be in there. Mast cells to respond to any form of inflammation, and then lymphocytes. Okay, lymphocytes. So normally these are some of the diseases that are associated with them. Okay, I wouldn't want to talk about that now. Then the hypodermis, which is below the reticular dermis layer, is mainly made up of adipose connective tissue. adipose connective tissue, and it has a lot of large blood vessels that supply the dermis. So looking at this picture, what can you say? We are looking at the disposition and then secretion and then making of melanin. And from here, we can see that this lady here has a lot of melanin as compared to this lady here. This is the most lightest, so the melanin content. So you realize that some of the whites are whiter than some of the others. So it is only telling us about the melanin dispositions and all those things in there. So this is the dermis, and this part is connected. This part will be the papillary dermis, and then this is the reticular dermis. Now, when we look inside the dermis, the other structures we will see, we should be seeing the sebaceous gland. We will see the sebaceous gland, and we will see the erectopili muscles of the hair follicles. We will see the hair follicle itself, some in the dermis, some moving all the way to the hypodermis. And then we can also look at the merocrine sweat glands in there. So, looking at the epidermal derivatives, the very first one we'll talk about is the hair. We've spoken about. The hair is a structure that comes out from the epidermis. It can have its origination from the hypodermis or the dermis. So, what are the parts of the hair? So, the hair will have, this is the bulb, the hair bulb. This is the hair shaft. Okay. So, when you look at here, we said the hair bulb, expanded terminal end in the dermal papillae, and then the hair follicle, that is the tubular epidermal invagination. We'll look at that. The hair root, and then the hair shaft, 2 to 3 layers. So when we take, oh, this is the hair. Okay, so this is the hair bulb. Okay, the hair itself is also put into different layers. We have the matrix, and then we have the cuticle. This is the cuticle. Okay, that's the cuticle of the hair. Okay, so it is thrown into several layers. This is the hair shaft itself. This is the hair shaft, and then we could also have, oh, where is the other one? The erectopili muscles. From here, here, the erectopili muscles is actually not showing here, and most of the times the hair follicle is being attached to by the sebaceous glands. So the erectopili muscle is the muscle that connects to the hair follicles, and then they contract or relax to cause some form of attachment to the hair. So that is what the erectopili muscles will do. So their contraction and relaxation will cause the hair to either stand up or lie over the surface. Now, the sebaceous glands are simple branch acinal glands. So let us just quickly go in there and see how these ones are. So when you look at this, yes, so this is your hair follicle. Then you can see this is a sebaceous gland, and this is a erectopili muscle. Okay, this is just to show more of the sebaceous gland. Sebaceous gland. You can see the hair bulb here, and then the sebaceous gland attached to it. Now, the sweat glands that are in the skin are in, we have two main types. We have the merocrine sweat glands and then the apocrine sweat glands. The merocrine sweat glands is the one we see all over the body, except some of the regions that we don't have uh, the sweat glands. So the sweat glands, we can see them around uh, you remember your lips will not sweat, so there are no sweat glands over there. The glands of the penis, I don't know any of the guys, Have you ever seen the glands of the penis sweating before? No, because there are no sweat glands here, unless there is someone who has it and we don't know yet. So that aside these places, sweat glands are seen almost every other way. However, most of them are merocrine. And then where we can have the apocrine sweat glands are in just some regions of the human body. They normally exist in the axilla, the armpit, the breast, and at the perineal region around the private part. That is, and then for them, their secretions are milky, and then they give odor. In case you don't, that's why you need to always take care of your armpit because of the type of the sweat glands that are there. Their secretion is different from the one that comes out of the skin itself. So they secrete milky substances, and then if they are not taken care of and bacteria invades it, then they begin to what? Smell. That is how come you need to take good care of yourself. Mm. Assuming a beautiful girl passes by you and then you cannot hold your breath. Okay, you have to hold your breath because whatever is coming into the nostrils, it's only God that can help you out of it. It is very bad. Beautiful girl, beautiful saint. Okay, ugly boy, ugly saint. It goes. So that is for the sweat glands. So these are just to show us the merocrine sweat glands. These are all merocrine sweat glands showing us the simple uh, merocrine gland, asinal glands. Deborah, do your duty. Uh, Simple asinal glands in there. Then the other thing we can also talk about for the epidermal derivatives are the nails. The nails. The nails are plates of keratinized cells. They are actually keratinized cells that cover the dorsal surface of the digits. And then we are going to see they have a root that is the hidden part of the nail, which we don't see. The eponychium, also known as the cuticle, which is actually where the nail kind of emerges out from. We have the nail bed itself and then the matrix. Then we also have the hyponychium, which is the epidermis of the skin that joins the undersurface. So let's look at this. So looking at this is the nail, this is the eponychium, part of the epidermis that shows the entry point, and then this is the hyponychium. This is the dense connective tissue we are looking at, the muscle inside there. Okay, so this is the nail bed itself. This is the nail bed itself. This is the root of the nail. This is the root of the nail. So it's also uh, an epidermal derivative. So I'm going to point at some things and then you tell me what they are. You tell me what they are. Anybody can try and just. So what is this?
There is the hair.
The hair what? When I point here, you have to be very cautious. It's hair what?
Hair follicles.
This is the shaft.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So we are looking at the hair
Yes.
follicle. Okay. Now, when it comes out of the epidermis, then it turns from follicle to shaft. Okay. So here, the follicle, when you write it, is okay. Then what is this?
So the bulb.
It's the hair bulb.
The hair
The
bulb.
hair bulb. And
Hair
Hair
bulb.
then,
bulb.
all right, hair
Hair
bulb.
bulb.
Your hair bulb. I hear. What is this?
Mm.
So it's the sweat gland.
No,
Oh,
It's a sebaceous gland.
no. That is a
Blood
blood
vessel.
vessel. Okay, you can see blood even in it. That's a blood vessel. What is this?
Arteries.
so that's the
Arteries.
sweat gland.
That's a sweat
Yes,
gland. What is this?
articulation.
Sebaceous. tissues.
No, that's not sebaceous gland.
Adipose tissue.
Adipose tissue. That's great. What
Adipose
is
tissue.
this?
Sebaceous gland.
Sebaceous gland. That's sebaceous gland. And then what is this part?
Yeah, interest.
So you see this one picture. I can point a lot of things on it. What is that?
Yes.
What is that? That is the duct of the sebaceous gland. This is the duct. Okay. Then what is this?
Say muscle.
Erectopili muscle. Just don't write the muscle. Just write erectopili muscle. Okay.
Okay, sir.
And what is this? This
Say
part.
the basal membrane.
No.
Yeah,
What
the
is
basal
this?
membrane.
No. What is this?
Say connective tissue.
Connective tissue. But what is the name?
Dermis.
That is the dermis, the papillary dermis, okay? And then what about this part? This is the reticular dermis. Are you getting me?
Yes.
Okay, what is this?
Epidermis.
Epidermis. What about this part?
Epidermis.
What about that part?
So that
so what that
that's the basal membrane.
Basal membrane.
That's the basal layer, the stratum basale. The stratum basale, okay. What I can just say here, I can just point here, and then as you mention two cells, we can identify here. So what are the two cells we can identify here?
Connective
So we can
tissue.
identify the mark cells.
What?
So you said cells, right?
No, you not identify mast cells here. You identify the melanocytes. The melanocytes, and then you can also identify the simple cuboidal epithelial cells. Okay. All right. So you see how this one, a lot of questions can be coined around it. So that is for the integumentary system. Any questions before I look at the renal system? I told you today we have a lot to do. Renal system. Any question? Yes.
Yeah, please. The melanin. Does the melanin gives the hair also is black color? Because the albinos, their skin is not black. Some of them, mostly their hair is also not black.
Anything you see being black has melanin and some of keratin in them. That is all. Keratinization and melanin. I get you.
Okay. Sir, please, is it true that the thickness or the softness of the skin also depend on the keratin?
Please, can we, if you want to, I think people are speaking in a lot of ways. So please, if you raise up your hands, Deborah will mention your name. Then you can ask your question. Yes, someone says that word. Someone just asked question.
Sir, I said that. Sir, I said that the thickness or the softness of the skin, does it depend on the keratin?
Yes.
Okay.
A bit. Okay. Not entirely. Yes.
Okay.
At times it also comes from genetics anyway.
Okay, thank you.
I know someone who asked me, why is it that ladies have softer skin than men? Is that it? Who told you ladies have softer? You've not met any lady whose skin is as thick as something before. Eh?
Willie.
Okay. But in normal nature, the ladies do not are not having that much. You see, you feel them to be soft because of the adipose tissue. Are you getting me? When you take, as I was saying, for instance, when you take gluteus maximus of females, it's not the muscle, but it's the adipose tissue that is making it to be so soft and then very appealing to your eyes. Okay. So most of this is the way their hormones, estrogens, progesterone, and all those things direct the dispositions of the adipose tissue in their body. Yes, Edna. Yeah, I'm listening. Yes, ask your question. Ask your
Okay,
question.
so my question is, oh, okay. So why is it that the subcutaneous membrane is not part of the skin?
The what?
The
The what?
subcutaneous
The
mem
subcutaneous.
subcutaneous
Okay.
membrane is not part of, yeah. So why is that it's not part of the skin?
When we say cutaneous, we are saying skin. So anything below it is not skin. Do you understand now? That's why we say subcutaneous. But subcutaneous is at times regarded to be the beginning point. Subcutaneous, you are looking at the hypodermis, but the skin itself is made up of mainly the epidermis and then the dermis. At times you have the hypodermis, but you are looking at the subcutaneous membrane. It is below the hypodermis. Are you getting me? So that is why most of the times it is not regarded as skin.
But the adipose tissue is also found on the subcutaneous membrane.
What I'm saying is that the subcutaneous region, are you getting me? Which is the hypodermis, is made up of what? A lot of adipose tissue. I am not saying, when we say membrane, it's different from the layer. I don't know if we are talking about the layer, because the layer is regarded as part of the skin. Do you get me? Ishmael Tete. Deborah, you're not doing your work.
Okay, so please, can the absence of melanin cause body cancer?
Not precisely. It's just that you might not be able to withstand certain conditions. But saying you have, then that means all albinos would have cancer, skin cancer. But that will depend.
Okay.
That will depend. You shouldn't expose yourself to a lot of UV lights and things. So you realize that albinos don't like walking under the sun. Do you get it?
Oh, okay. So what of those who bleach the skin?
Okay.
Do they yeah.
Bleaching, you are trying to destroy some form of the basal cells, including the melanocytes. But there are several forms of bleaching. Some would want to just reduce the amount of melanin being produced. So in turn, they become fairer. That is all. But all those things have their detrimental side effects. It lead.
Oh,
Is it ad lead or id lead?
okay. Thank you.
Yes, I'm listening.
Sir,
Talk now. Talk. I'm listening.
please, can this condition,
I can't hear you. If you can type your question, that would be preferable.
I'm asking if this can be corrected.
What can be corrected?
Since the lack of um,
This is genetic.
Type your question and I can't hear you.
Sir, please, he's trying to say that can they correct albinism?
Albinism.
Oh, no. It's hereditary
Hello?
and genetic. It's hereditary and genetic. That means that we should go and inject melanin or find a way of developing melanocytes in them, or a way of activating the melanocytes to produce melanin. But that thing is mostly hereditary, and most hereditary things is very difficult to work on. Tulasi Williams.
Yeah. Sir, please, I know that the sebaceous gland help us to produce oil to make the skin, to hydrate the skin. So aging also causes less sebaceous gland to be produced. So please, I want to know that in children that their skin age, is it that they lack the production of the sebum to hydrate the skin?
The question is a bit confusing. Let me see if I have any cortical representation of your question. Are you trying to say that as we age, the sebaceous glands' activity to produce sebum reduces?
Yeah.
So does it imply that children who have aging skins tend to have lower sebaceous activities? Is that your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Aging is not only from the skin, sebaceous glands. You know, if you did remember, there are a lot of other things that we found in the skin, like the carotene, okay, the melanin and all the vitamin D and everything. Your inability to, especially the carotene, your inability to work on this, to enhance the carotene activity within your body can make you age. Aging is also from the telomeric activity of the chromosomes. And then that one, you cannot do anything about it. Some of these things that you see are more hereditary, okay, which have genetic dispositions.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Any other question?
Lawe pwe. Sir. Lawe yiku. Sir.
Yes.
Sir.
I'm listening. If you know you are
Sir.
not asking question, mute your mic, please. The person talking can talk, yes.
Sir.
I'm listening.
Sir.
Boss, I'm listening. Talk. You can't talk.
Some newborn babies are fair when giving birth to.
I can't hear you.
When
Start
giving
the
birth
question
to.
again. I didn't hear the
Sir,
beginning
I
of the
said
question.
some newborn babies are fair when giving birth to. And I said, is it that they become more dark when as they are growing? So is it that when they are small, the melanocytes are not developed to produce more melanin or?
That is one factor. The other thing is that when they are just coming out of a condition which is a water-prone environment. Now they are being subjected towards another condition which is an air-prone environment. So the main thing is that for we blacks, I will not say the whites, for we blacks, normally it is the before a particular cell begins to work, it is the exposure to what the a condition. So that is why we say that phenotypics is the gross disposition or exposure of what the genetics. So when I'm exposed to a very dangerous environment, I tend to protect myself. So when they come out, they are exposed to the environment, and then the skin needs to start producing something. So that is why baby will tend to be a bit lighter when giving birth to as compared to when they are what, growing up.
So,
Yeah,
some fingernails are dark. I want to know why.
dark,
Yeah, some
and
people
it's
have dark fingernails.
very
Yes,
dark,
please. Yeah, very dark.
and it is normal. It's not pathologic.
Yes, yes. Yeah,
I'm
I've
asking
seen
you a
it.
question. Is it normal and it's not pathologic?
So it's normal, dark, uh, dark
Yeah,
nail.
normal.
Okay. Normally, I've not come across that. I've not come across that. But if you are having dark fingernails, then it should deal with your genetics. For that, I cannot really explain. I cannot really explain.
Yeah, say it's genetic.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so I wanted us to look at uh, the histology of the renal system. Don't know why I
Sir,
can't find mine. Uh,
hello, sir.
yeah, I'm listening.
I had wanted to ask this question. You see, some of the
For the day, I'm
skin,
tired.
me for instance, let's say there are maybe brothers and sisters. You see, there's some parts. There is a very dark something. I don't know. They normally call it a mark or something like this. So in that way, is it because of heredity or genetics or anything like that?
Yes, that thing is usually hereditary and genetics. You are looking at pigments that are
Oh,
collected at
okay.
particular points of the body. Is that not so? Yes,
Yes, please.
and those things usually happen in almost everybody. Okay, everybody has such form of mark. It's
Okay.
just pigment accumulation. Okay, and
Okay.
at times people use it for onyami. Onyami,
Okay.
Onyami, can you ask your question? Yes,
Yeah,
I'm listening. Talk.
yeah.
Sir, please, sorry, it was just a slip of hand.
Who is talking? Just talk. I can hear you.
The skill stems from the
I can't hear you. What is he saying?
skill different from the epidermis. That like having
Can you type your question? I can't hear you. Your voice is faint. Your voice is faint. I can't hear you. Anyways,
Hello.
yeah, hello.
Yes, sir. Please, I want to know the causes of skin itching. Skin itching.
Oh, that one is
What cause?
just normal inflammation. When you have something that your body is exposed to which it doesn't like, then there is inflammation. So what happens is that your muscles will be agitated, and then they start producing all sort of things. And then you realize that when you are scratching, that becomes red and at times swollen. It's just inflammation. Okay,
Oh, okay.
which could be
Okay.
due to
Thank you,
all
sir.
sort of things. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
All right. where is this I'm trying to get my renal system and it's not coming. So let me see if I can find it.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning.
Hello.
I'm listening. Oh, I've been responding. Good morning, but you don't hear me.
Yeah, I said that when it comes to skin itching, assuming that there's no any kind of medicine you can take to reduce it.
Oh, there are medicines you can take to reduce skin itching, but the thing is that how would you know that it is this? Probably it is just an exposure to something that is causing the itching, and you might take a medicine which doesn't have a mechanism pathway to that particular receptor, so it doesn't work. That is why for skin, it's a bit difficult to get a medicine that you are, unless the cause of the itching is known. Because, for instance, those who suffer from hepatitis B have some form of skin itching. The skin itching is not coming from any exposure, but rather the accumulation of bilirubin in the body. Uh-huh. So that particular thing will cause some form of itching. And what you can do is when you bath cold water, it will be fine. You don't have to subject yourself to also hot environments. And then make sure that your bilirubin level reduces, and then it takes care of. So it depends on what you want to see. All right, let's quickly look at this. Let me use this slide. I can't find it. Can you see the slide I have projected?
No.
No, sir.
I hope you can see something like renal corpuscle.
Yes, mine.
Yes,
sir.
All right. Before I come to renal corpuscle, I have taught you renal system. So you know the geometric disposure of what? The renal system. But let me just quickly show you the renal system again, and then that is all. So it was Monday that we learned this. We are seeing the kidney, and then within the kidney, I told you that the renal vessels, that is the renal artery, will go to form segmental arteries. The segmental arteries will continue to form the interlobar artery. This is one lobe, this is one lobe, this is another lobe. The interlobar arteries will also continue to arc over the pyramids to form the arcuate artery. And then the arcuate artery will give rise to interlobular artery. And this interlobular artery continues to form a glomerulus. And then this glomerulus continue to come out as an efferent arteriole. And then the efferent arteriole will form the peritubular capillary. Then you come back to interlobular venule, arcuate venule, segmental venule, and then eventually renal vein. So we are going to look at the kidney, and then we will look at the cells that will make up the kidney, and then the vessels within them. So that is what we are going to look at. So we know that what we are seeing here is known as the renal corpuscle, which is made up of the Bowman's capsule and then the glomerulus. So we'll be looking at the renal corpuscle histology, look at the proximal convoluted tubule histology, loop of Henle histology, the thin and then the thick side, the collecting duct, and then the distal convoluted tubule, and then look at other parts like the ureter, the bladder, and then the urethra. So this is what I was kind of explaining earlier. So when we take the renal corpuscle, I told you that the renal corpuscle is made up of a vascular pole, with that is the afferent, efferent, and then the glomerulus. And then tubular pools are the ones that will contain the units. Urine, that is the PCTs and the DCTs. Okay, so let's look at the histology of them. So when we take the glomerular capsule, the glomerular capsule is made up of a parietal layer, the part that is connected to the Bowman capsule, and then the visceral layer, which are made up of the Bowman capsule itself. So of the glomerulus itself. So the parietal layer is made up of simple squamous epithelium, and then the visceral layer, which are made up of the podocytes, and then they are used for filtration. The capsular space, that the Bowman capsule itself, is the point where the filtration is done, and then we are going to look at this well. So this is the glomerular apparatus, and then this is the glomerular parietal layer, and then this will be the visceral pattern. Those things that you are seeing on it is the fenestrated layer, which will allow for filtration, and then eventually comes out again as efferent and afferent artery. Now, this is the proximal convoluted tubule, which is also made up of simple cuboidal epithelium. Okay, simple with some brass borders on it. Okay, with some brass borders on it. So this is what you see under histology. The kidney, you look at for the glomerulus, which you see more in the cortex. You don't see more of it in the medulla. You see more of the glomerular or the renal corpuscle. This white space is the Bowman space or the capsular space. And then that is a proximal convoluted tubule. I'll teach you the difference between the proximal convoluted tubule and then the distal convoluted tubule. So this is just an EM to show the pores within the membrane that allows for filtration. So proximal convoluted tubule begins at the tubular pole of the renal corpuscle. The cells are simple cuboidal epithelium, and then because it is cuboidal, they'll do some form of absorption. So they reabsorb some of the filtrate, that is glucose and amino acid, electrolytes, and plasma proteins. And then they are also soluble to water and also do some form of filtration of water. When we take the loop of Henle, it is continuing from the proximal convoluted tubule, projected downwards into the medulla. And then it has two limbs, the ascending limb and then the descending limb. The ascending limb will return to that is from the renal medulla to the renal cortex, whilst the descending limb will be made up of will start from the renal cortex to the renal medulla. So when you take this, we are looking at the renal corpuscle. This is the proximal convoluted tubule. The proximal convoluted tubule are a bit larger, okay, as compared to the distal convoluted tubule. Look at the proximal convoluted tubule. They stain a bit redder as compared to the distal convoluted tubule when you look at it. Okay, so all these ones are proximal convoluted tubule, whilst the darker ones are the distal convoluted tubule. So we are just showing you a cut in this part. So we are cutting some distal convoluted tubule. That's why we are seeing a lot of them here. We are cutting some portion of what? The proximal convoluted, and this is the renal corpuscle, which we are seeing inside there. So the branch borders, I told you they also have a lot of branch border. That's microvilli, which will enhance the activity of the simple cuboidal epithelium. So these are just the loop of Henle's. These are loop of Henle's. These are collecting ducts. Okay, they are collecting ducts. And then this thing that we call vasa recta is actually the ending point of the peritubular capillaries. Let's see. This I've already spoken about. So let's continue. The distal convoluted tubule is also concerned with reabsorption of ions and also water. Okay, that is when I told you last Monday that anti-diuretic hormone and aldosterone hormones come into place. And then the cell is also made up of simple columnar epithelium. Now, when we take the ureter, the ureter, the ureter will have three layers. Three layers. It has a mucosa, a muscularis, and an adventitia. No submucosa. The mucosa will have an epithelium, the type of epithelium you see, which runs through from the ureter to the urethra, is the transitional epithelium. Okay, it's a transitional epithelium. Then it has two wall layers, circular, inner circular muscle and outer longitudinal muscles. And then they also have adventitia. The bladder also has the inner, the same three layers, mucosa, muscularis, and adventitia. We have the mucosa to have an epithelium named transitional epithelium, and then it has a detrusor muscle and then an adventitia. But when we come to the bladder, especially at the tunical regions, we have four layers instead of three, as we will see in the ureter. So you have a mucosa, submucosa, muscularis, which we call the detrusor muscles, and then adventitia. Also, at the beginning point, at the ending point of the bladder, you have the internal urethral sphincter. Okay, so let's look at the ureter. So this is the ureter that we are seeing. We can see the mucosa starting from here to here, and then this is the muscularis. Okay, and then this is the adventitia. Okay, so we are showing us the transitional epithelium. You can see some are cuboidal while some are flattened here, and then this is the lamina propria. So when we say mucosa, mucosa always have three layers. Okay, an epithelium, a lamina propria, and then maybe a muscularis mucosa. So we are just cutting through the ureter. Now, when we take the bladder, we can see the transitional epithelium in the lamina propria. Then we are looking at the submucosa. There is no muscularis mucosa, and this is the detrusor muscles, and then this is the adventitia. So this is how a transitional epithelium will look like. So beginning from the top to down here. Okay, you have the basal lamina here. And then the cells are, you cannot differentiate whether they are uh, flattened or cuboidal. Okay, so is that anyway? So for the renal part, that is it, and then I'm going to tell you to do something. You are going to read on the renal cortex, the histology of the renal cortex. You can find that in your lab manual. Histology of the renal cortex, the number of layers it is placed into it, same as the medulla, what type of cells you see in the as associated with what type of cells you see in the medulla. So thank you for today. If there are questions you ask, if they are not, we will end today's session. Any questions? All right. So thank you very much and have a wonderful day. But let me check the chat first. Probably there might be some questions in there.
Thank you, sir. We do appreciate.
Okay.
Sir, I have a
Yes.
question. Sir, I once remember my grandmother used to tell me that when you chew your fingernails, you will not be getting hair growth on your body part. So I want to know if it's a myth or how does the fingernails relate to the hair growth
I don't
on
know
the body
about that.
parts?
I don't know how chewing of fingernail. They have not seen any research on that. I've not read on it, so I can't really tell any about
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Brenya, but that's just Brenya.
I'll test you.
Tulasi Williams.
Brenya boy. Test you, Brenya.
Edinam.
Sir,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a question before I was disconnected. So I wanted to know the effect of bleaching on the skin.
Oh, we already answered that. Okay.
Oh, I was not in touch then.
When you hear the video lectures, you will get it. But let me
Okay.
just say that bleaching, I said that it's either you are targeting the melanocytes not to produce enough melanin, you are regulating the amount of melanin produced, or you are killing the cells in there, or you are enhancing on the carotene levels. That is what I said. Wisdom Toku.
Okay, sir. Please. So what about toning? They say they tone their body color.
I don't know what is toning.
That's
what is toning. And when they tone it, then they are looking at the fibers. They are trying to work on the elastic fibers, look at the carotene level in it, and also the melanin level. So that is toning. I don't know how that is different from bleaching. People now would want to run away from bleaching and say they are toning their color. What's that? So.
So okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
All right. Have a nice time and have a wonderful day.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you very much. We do appreciate.